5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we are on the brink with Gillian Roberts. Hey,
Hello.
Gillian.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm great, thank
Good.
you.
Nice to have you on the show. And we've known each other already for a couple of years. And Gillian is an athlete supreme, and she's really into running. And tell us a little bit about you in terms of where are you from originally, and when did you come to Northern BC? And
So I was born in London, Ontario, which is in southern Ontario, about 2 hours southwest of Toronto. Yes, there is areas southwest of Toronto, believe it or not. And I went to university in Northern Ontario in Thunder Bay at Lakehead University, which is where I met my now husband. And when we graduated, he got a job in Prince George, BC, and I had never heard of this place in my life before, but I got on a plane and came to Prince George and had absolutely no idea what to expect. And here we are 6 years later. We have absolutely fallen in love with Prince George and Northern BC, and we have no intentions of leaving. So
So you came to Northern BC 6 years ago, right?
Yes, yeah.
And then what did you study in university in Ontario?
I have undergrad of outdoor recreation, parks, and tourism.
Interesting.
With a degree in teaching. So I kind of did those at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that, I didn't know that there was a study like...
I believe UNBC also has like an outdoor recreation course of some sort. I don't know exactly everything about it, but outdoor recreation, parks and tourism at Lakehead. We do a lot of outdoor education studies, and there's different streams within that study. So people could kind of specialize in parks, in tourism, or in leadership. So I took the leadership stream, which was a very natural stream for people also in the teaching program.
Right.
So I got to do a lot of just fantastic outdoor education trips and learn how to be an outdoor educator. It was really fantastic.
And your husband, he's a
forester.
He's a forester, and so he works for one of the major companies here in Northern BC? Or?
He works for the government.
For the government of BC?
Yeah.
So, so very appropriate, right? So, Northern BC, it's the spruce capital.
Made sense that Prince George is where we kind of ended up with his career for sure. And I mean, as a teacher, I could really end up anywhere. So.
Yeah, and the school that you teach here in the Prince George area is what grades do you teach?
So I teach at St. Mary's Elementary School, and I teach grade 4.
Yeah, and and then the other part that is very, very much part of your life is you're very athletic and very athletic oriented, in particular running. So tell us some of them about that. What?
Running has always been a huge part of my life. My parents were both very good runners. My dad actually owns 2 running stores. So being a runner was like a very natural thing for me to do. I very much became a product of my environment in that sense.
Right.
My mom used to be a marathon runner. My dad was a very good track runner. And my dad used to put on like local races in London. He had like a race series out of one of his stores.
Right.
So as a kid, I grew up, running in the kids' races, and then slowly making it to doing the 5K when I was a little older, and slowly making my way up with that, and doing elementary cross country and track and field. And then I was also a swimmer when I was a kid. I used to be a synchronized swimmer, actually, which is a lot of people don't know that about me.
Yeah.
I did it for a long time too, and at a competitive level I did synchronized swimming, and then in university I came across triathlon, and I kind of thought, I already do 2 of these things, I could learn how to bike. That looks really cool.
Right.
So that's kind of how I decided to then dip my toes into the triathlon world, and after that, I was totally hooked on triathlon and just totally fell in love with that whole world and atmosphere and lifestyle.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about it. What exactly is it?
So triathlon
Yeah.
is a swim, bike, run.
Yeah.
Is the sport, right?
Right.
So in the Olympics, there's the Olympic distance.
Right.
And I did a couple Olympic distances to start out with, but then I got interested in the half Ironman, so the 70.3 distance of triathlon.
So how much is that? What kind of a distance?
So it's called the 70.3 because it's 70.3 miles.
Right.
So it's, I'll do it in kilometers though, the distances, because I'm more familiar with the kilometer
Right.
breakdown, but it's 1.8 kilometer swim, 90 kilometer on the bike, and then a 21 kilometer run, the half marathon at the end of all that.
Wow.
So yeah, and half marathon was my favorite distance to run, so that's kind of also why I was like, oh, that looks really cool. I love the half marathon. Let's try this triathlon with the half marathon in it.
So you're a good swimmer, obviously, as well.
I'm a pretty good swimmer, yeah. Definitely, there's people out there who can beat me up, absolutely, but I would say I'm a decent swimmer.
Have you done it on an international level, or
No.
So where would be most of the competition, in which areas?
I haven't done much racing in a couple years, especially with these big races. But when I first started racing, I did a couple in the States. I went to Indiana.
Wow.
I went to Washington. I did one in Lake Stevens. I've been to Calgary. Has a great race.
Right.
And I had a goal, a couple years ago when I was racing, to make it to the World Championships for that event. And I came very, very close one year, but didn't quite make it. So it's still a goal.
So you're training then? Are you training in an organized way, or do you do it on your own?
In the past, I have had coaches, and for the last little while, I haven't. But I am getting back into a more structured kind of training now that I'm coming out of, my treatment.
Right.
And now I'm starting to do a little bit more of a structured stuff now that I've been gaining some fitness back.
Right.
But over the years, I've done a combination of just kind of like doing it on my own, getting some advice from some people. When I first started training for triathlon, when I was still in Ontario, I was working with a coach, and that coach had a bunch of athletes that they worked with, and I would go to different training sessions with them, and I learned just a ton, not only from that coach, but from the other athletes that had so much experience that I could just like soak up all this knowledge from them, which was awesome.
Sure. Now, 2019 has been quite a year for you.
Yeah, so 2018 and 2019 were a bit of a kick in the pants for me, for sure.
So tell us a little bit about 2018 when you discovered or you were diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, actually. I wasn't diagnosed with cancer in 2018, but it's kind of 2018 was the start of this journey that eventually did lead to cancer. Yeah.
Right.
In early 2018, I discovered that I had a large ovarian tumor. Yeah. And it was like unbelievably ginormous. Apparently when it came out, it was like the size of a football. It was huge. And it was just squished in there between everything else, right? I could not even believe that would fit inside of my body.
Right.
But yeah, February 2018, I had surgery, got that taken out, had that surgery here in Prince George.
Right.
From my gynecologist here in Prince George. She did the surgery, and I did my 6 weeks of recovery, my bed rest, and the abdominal surgery was a huge cut because the mass was so big that they had to make the cut down my abdomen just so giant.
Wow.
So that took some time to recover from, for sure.
But there are no indications before, because something like that. There's always a stigma about it in a way, and on the other hand, it affects so many people in the world at all ages, really, and all stages. That initially when you get. Every family is virtually affected at some point, for sure, and so when you found out, when you got your diagnosis, then Was that a gradual process, or did you have no indications?
So a couple months before I found that initial tumor, I was feeling a little bit bloated, and just didn't think much of it. I was 26, just didn't really wasn't actively thinking about, I should really be aware of these ovarian growth symptoms. I mean, what 26-year-old is aware of, actively thinking about that?
Right.
And but then once I went in and got that ultrasound, the bloating and the feeling that I was feeling of instantly full all the time when I was eating and having to urinate a lot, those symptoms started to really make sense, because this huge tumor was putting pressure on everything inside my body.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got that taken out, did the recovery, and then just tried to get back to training, went back to work.
Did you, so now lucky us, we have this amazing cancer center here.
Yes.
And we've been quite involved with them, and I had an opportunity to visit you when you were in recovery.
Yeah.
And but I'm always so amazed with it.
They're fantastic. But I didn't encounter them until 2019.
Right.
Because that tumor in that first year in 2018 was benign. So I got it taken out, and I just went about my merry way.
Yeah.
And then continued to train and get ready, and I had to. So that summer that I got that first tumor out, 2018, I had to drop out of Whistler. 2018, I was going to do the Whistler Half Ironman. Had to drop out, so I signed up for it next year, all excited of my year of return. And then in May of 2019, I ran the BMO half marathon in Vancouver, which I'd done many years before that. It's a fantastic race.
Right.
And I did all the training. Based on all my training, I was really excited because I wasn't only going to do it, but I felt like I was going to do really good.
Right.
And halfway through the race, everything just kind of started going downhill for me. I started to feel really sick.
Right.
Ended up clawing my way through that race, and I did finish it, but not nearly how I would have liked to. And then in the next couple days, I continued. I felt so sick, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. I've never experienced feeling this ill feeling after a race before, even though, sure, it didn't go great, but still, I shouldn't be feeling so sick.
No.
And then that's when I went in for another ultrasound, and they said, you know what, you have another on your other ovary that's left over, because my one full ovary got taken out.
Sure.
The one that was left over, you have another growth.
Yeah.
So, in that moment, just all of those things I had planned for the rest of my year, 2019, of this exciting return to my life, just came crashing down before my eyes, and it was just absolutely devastating. And went to Vancouver to get that surgery taken care of, and didn't know that it was cancerous until I woke up from that surgery. So woke up from that surgery and got that news, and then came home to Prince George and proceeded to start my 6 months of chemo at the Center for the North, which like you were saying is just so fantastic, and the nurses and the doctors and everyone there, just I cannot say enough good things about them, for sure. So
And so there you have a person that is very athletic, and you are the ultimate of being fitness, really, and having been so involved. And I'm sure you're very conscientious about diet and all the other things that go with being athletic. And it affects you, it kind of hits you. First, the operation and having this major tumor, although it was benign at the time, and then the next year is having it in your other ovary, so it must be a shock to your life and anxiety and all these things with it. And as a result of that, you're very open to talk about it, and in fact, I believe even you're blogging about it to the rest of the world, really.
Partway through my chemo, I was already kind of doing the social media thing, sharing my story, being open, because I had already kind of discovered that there was definitely power and something positive to be taken from sharing your truth and sharing your story, and that if even just one person gets something out of it, that's a
Right.
win. I just kind of figured like I had all these things I wanted to talk about and topics I wanted to tackle, and if no one cared and no one read it, then who cares? It was for me.
Yeah.
But if someone read it and someone got inspiration from it, or someone found motivation from it, or just connected with the story in any way,
Exactly.
that would be, a bonus, a
right?
win.
Yeah.
And the amount of positive responses I've gotten from the things I've written are just fantastic.
Unbelievable,
So
eh?
I'm just happy that people are connecting with my story, and either with maybe their own experiences, or maybe a friend of theirs or a family member went through a similar experience, or they have, totally different experiences that some of the topics I'm writing about they can connect with.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of things I'm writing about, going through hard times, learning lessons,
Yeah.
Isolation, these are topics that, don't only affect cancer patients, they
Yeah.
affect so many people in
In
different situations.
different ways, right?
Yeah.
So and to have the courage to absorb the diagnosis, and then all the things go through your mind. A lot of them are negative, and how do you deal with that? And how do you deal with the family? And those are all very, very important things for people to know that maybe do not have the support system around them, and then to be able to share with somebody that lived it or went through it via blog, I believe would be very important.
Definitely. And a lot of the feedback I've gotten from people who are reading are saying things like, I had a friend or a family member go through a cancer diagnosis and they never wanted to talk about it. So I had absolutely no idea what they were feeling. I had no idea some of the things they were going through. So thank you for sharing your experience, just that it's giving some of these readers maybe an insight into what maybe their friends and family might have experienced, but maybe didn't know how to share. So I just feel like if sharing is a strength of mine, then I owe it to share that and help others.
Yeah, it's and again, I've had it in my family, and usually it's in most cases a minimized discussion area, or not at all.
Definitely.
Right? So that's why I thought it was so unique, and before the interview I asked you about it because I thought it was so important to
Absolutely.
know, and it's delightful that you do share. And
well, and in my family as well, my dad had prostate cancer when I was 12.
Right.
And I knew very little about his journey. Because my brother and I, we were children, so they didn't tell us everything. They really kind of just told us what we needed to know.
Yeah.
But then through me sharing my cancer journey, and then reaching out to my dad and I have talked a lot about his cancer journey as well, and I've learned a lot more about his cancer journey now, years later, just because of questions I had from myself, and the way we've connected through some of those similarities and very big differences within our own journeys too.
Yeah.
So
I have two daughters, they are now in their mid-40s, but throughout life, that I know, even at 10, 12, they are very, very aware.
Definitely.
And much more so than I always thought they would be. And then, they are obviously very concerned about a parent and in terms of the well-being and their health. And so I always find it important to, so they say, okay, Dad, you had a doctor visit. Are you okay? I said, no, it's just this or that. So, but I'm always trying to be open with them, and I believe that is very important.
Definitely.
So,
And at that age, I teach grade 4, so my students are 9 and 10, and people always forget how much that kids at that age really, they do get things.
Yeah.
They need some guidance, but they get a lot more than we think they do sometimes.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Now, so you left the hospital, or your chemo ended when?
My chemo, I had my last chemo day on November 28th, 2019.
Yeah, 2019. So it's a while ago now.
Yeah, I guess it's
more
nice
than a year.
and solid 6 months of hair growth here that I have.
Yeah. You look great either way.
Oh, thank you.
So, but so then what do you do from there on in? You have to come back for observation?
Yeah, I mean, every patient is different. I mean, every person is different, and but generally they'll get you to come back on a pretty like routine basis.
Yeah.
So I've been going back once every 3 months.
Yeah.
So I have my 6th month one coming up at the end of the month.
In Prince George.
Yes, in Prince George. So it starts with blood work and some checks and physical exams and stuff, and then they'll take it from there if they, find something troubling, or if they say, we'll see you in another 3 months, or, the hope is that as you have more and more positive scans, that they'll push that 3 months a little bit longer, but they just, before they're going to do that, they have to have the confidence that that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, everybody's journey in that sense is different.
Yeah.
So, but at some point, they'll say, we don't want to see you again, which is where every cancer patient wants to get to at some point.
No question about it. So what are you doing now? Are you back in training, or whatever? How do you go forward from here? A new beginning, if you wish.
Oh, definitely. Like January was a weird time for me because I finished chemo, and then in December I flew home to Ontario, spent some time with my family, came back, and then I just was kind of here in January, just like with no purpose, no treatment to do, wasn't working, just kind of floating, and it was very strange. But I kind of just tried to try to set some goals for myself and try to do some new things and have fun, enjoy my hobbies as best as I could. But then I just kind of jumped into making little fitness goals for myself, just kind of climbing this ladder back to a place where I knew I wanted to be. And I'm still definitely climbing that ladder, but just trying to regain the fitness, build back that base of training and fitness, so that hopefully, someday when we're able to race again, when I'm able to have a race on the calendar, I'll be at a place where I'm ready to train for that race, that I have a good base of fitness beneath me.
Yeah, you appear to me like somebody that is very disciplined.
Oh, yes.
So, and that's a good thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, my husband makes fun of me all the time for my lists and my goals, and they're all written out, and I have them all categorized and color-coded, and I plan my months and my weeks, and everything's all in boxes, and that's very teachery type A like that, so
Now, particular hobbies other than those in athletic related, have you got any other hobbies that you like?
I love art.
Yeah.
I love to paint. I love crafting.
Are you an artist in that category? Or?
I mean, I wouldn't call myself an artist.
But you're pretty good.
But I do art, so sure, I'm an artist. I enjoy it. It's fun. I love teaching art to my students, so it's one of my favorite subjects to teach. Yeah, my youngest daughter, she's also studied arts and is a teacher as well. I definitely appreciate art more than I'm good at art, but but it is fun. But you like working with young people, and love being around children. I love my animals and pets and hiking. I love to hike. Just being outside, because I mean, in Prince George, we just have so much amazing wilderness to explore that often is not fully appreciated, I find. Where do you like to go in Prince George? Oh, it's too many places. Otway. For our listeners to listen to and say, okay, I've not been there. Otway, I love Otway. I was there this morning for a run. Running at Otway, biking at Otway, cross-country skiing. Teapot Mountain is a favorite. I think it's a favorite of most Prince George outdoor enthusiasts. A lot of people like it. Where is it located? Oh, gosh, I'm terrible with explaining where things are. Close to downtown, right? Not all that far out. I mean, it's a 45-minute drive from Prince George. Okay. So it's near Summit Lake is the best way I can describe it. Yes. And your husband, is he into similar things as you are at the outdoors? Oh, definitely. Yeah. He does all the things I do. I mean, he bikes with me, he runs with me, he swims with me. Nice. He does all these things that I do, just maybe at a little less intense of a level. Right. I'm very intense about it. He just tags along and likes to do it. Yeah. So, he's a great training buddy, though. He's good company. And then
animals is.
Yes.
I heard you talking about it a little bit about animals,
Yeah.
so that's part of your life as well, right?
Yeah, I love my animals. I have a very large cat named Edwin. He's not fat. He's just huge. He's just
How
a
does he
big
get
cat.
along with the dog?
He is not a fan of the dog because we had the cat first.
Yeah.
Because I bought the cat when I first moved to Prince George, and I had no friends and no family, and my husband was working in the bush a lot because this is before he worked in the government. He was doing a lot of bush work.
Yeah.
So he'd be gone for weeks and weeks and back
Yeah.
for a couple days. So I was really lonely when I first moved to Prince George.
Yeah.
So I got a cat.
Yeah.
So I have a very strange connection with my cat because like he's my pet, but he's also like my best friend and like my family member.
Yeah.
And then we got the dog 3 years later, and the cat really would prefer life if the dog wasn't there. But you know, he puts up with the dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
what kind of a dog have you got?
my dog is he's like a poodle lab cross of some sort.
Just an everything dog, right? So.
Yeah, he definitely poodle is very strong in him because he does
Yeah.
have the curly, non-shedding hair.
Right.
And then he has lab in him as well. But yeah, he's like the most friendly dog that you could meet for sure. He just wants to be everyone's friend.
Yeah. Now, another thing that you do now, obviously we are all affected by COVID, and obviously you have been affected by it. Your husband maybe is maybe working at home.
Yeah,
or
he's been
whatever.
working at home since like March. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're not doing. The school would be now on holidays regardless.
Yes.
Still not sure about September, I presume.
I mean, we know that we're going back in some shape or form for
Yeah.
elementary school. We're just not entirely sure exactly what it's going to look like. So
So
yeah.
it could well be virtual rather than
Sure.
in the classroom.
Or some sort of, mix between the two.
Two of them, yeah.
Not entirely sure exactly, though, how yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because that's getting closer now, before you know it is August, so they're kind of watching things in BC as they unfold, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that has affected all of us in a way, and it kind of
Yes.
made us realize that how delicate everything is, because all of a sudden, overnight, virtually, there we have this COVID
Definitely.
that is not only affecting a small region, but it's affecting the world.
Mm-hmm. No, it's crazy to think about just the scope of how that has affected everything.
Everything.
But yeah, I think that there's obviously some huge negatives that come out of COVID, and especially for already marginalized populations and people who are already struggling, but I think that's, if we try hard, for sure we can definitely at least pull some positives from this experience. I know that I've been talking to some people, and they're saying it really, an experience like this where this whole world is going through this just crazy thing, it really makes you realize, it gives you a new eye on perspective, what really is important, and
Exactly.
and things like that, and I'm reaching out more to my friends now to make sure that they're okay. Well, why wasn't I doing this before more? Maybe I should
Exactly.
keep doing this.
Yeah.
Little things like that we could pull forward and maybe bring into our next new normal of post-COVID life.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah, and then at the same time, obviously, that a lot of people are very vulnerable, and especially in the area of, in terms of business, small businesses or
Yes.
small restaurants, and that have to try to become viable on half the clients. Well, that simply doesn't work. So they have to kind of totally reinvent their businesses. So
Yeah, and obviously some businesses have not made it through COVID, which is, terrible for those business owners.
Right.
But at the same time, I've been quite amazed with how some businesses have been just so resourceful through this time to keep functioning and just totally change what they do. And and still be able to do like a great job at what they do. And so just, people's creativity and resourcefulness it's really quite amazing sometimes.
Yeah, and that's another positive of it, that in order to excel in especially in business, but in life in general, is that how do you kind of reinvent who you are or what you're doing, and the way to do that in business, which I'm most familiar with, is then you have to lay awake at nights and to be stretched to the absolute limit in order to bring that energy to bear that kind of makes you reinvent your business or your life, for that matter.
And that's like a really good comparison to being a cancer patient, or being someone who lives with a terminal illness. Exactly. Right? Like having an experience like that just gives you a totally new lens to look at everything through now. And so there's definitely a lot of comparisons between going through COVID and maybe the experience I just came out of, for sure.
Exactly.
So then going from one kind of right into the other was very strange for me. But both bring some just huge lessons and huge opportunities to really look at your life and look at who you are, and look at how you look at things, and your attitudes and your mindsets and everything just changes.
And the other part about it, Gillian, is that you can share that by being active in it on blog and help others, from your experiences in all of in those areas in particular, right?
Yeah. And that's the hope with my blog, is that, I mean, the tagline under my blog under the title just says like, you're stronger than you think, which I kind of saw as the takeaway point of everything that I'm saying, just to show people like, look, like you can do this. You think you might not be able to, but like you are stronger than you think. It's in there somewhere inside of you. And because people would always say to me like, oh, like you're so brave, and good thing that you were already such a brave, courageous person. And I said, well, I feel like if anyone was in this situation, though, they would rise to the challenge. Yeah. Because they would have to.
There is no choice.
Yeah, you have no choice. And I felt like that was a very like weird comment for me to approach in that sense, because I said like, well, I didn't choose this to happen to me. Yeah. I don't want it to, but if it happened to you, like you would also be brave, because you would have to be brave, and you could do it too. You're stronger than you think.
Exactly. And so what I find a lot of times is that as being my foundation in life is right on there, is attitude, passion, work ethic, and
good pillars to live by, for sure.
To me, it's always been that way, that I will always look at the positive. I avoid negative, and then but I believe it's important in life, and I do a fair amount of speaking to young people or people that aspire to entrepreneurship, is that that find your passion, that find early in life something that you really like, and whatever that may be, and then the earlier you can focus on that area, then the less energy you waste on looking at other different places, and then from there, and then finding a career and staying the course. And then the other part about it is dream the dream, so everything is possible, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. I mean, if we love what we do, then we're just going to keep doing it. And life is too short to like waste your time doing something that you don't enjoy, right? Like we don't want to waste our life doing something that we hate. And unfortunately, some people are in those situations where they, have to do jobs that they don't enjoy. But, if we have the opportunity and the privilege to go out and do things that truly make us happy, it just, your life can be so rich, right?
Yeah, and they say you find your passion and you find a job you'll never work again.
Right,
it's always
exactly.
a pleasure to going to work. And I believe that's important. But the other part about it, and I believe that's one of your strong points, is that you have a very, very positive attitude in all the things that you do, and that is fairly obvious by just seeing you and seeing what you have gone through.
Well, and positivity it's really hard sometimes, and people always say to me like, oh, like, you know, you're so positive, and you know, good thing you're so positive of the things you've gone through. And I said, well, I'm like, we can all be positive. Positivity is like a skill.
Yeah.
Right. Just like any other skill. It takes practice for sure. And I definitely have negative moments like anyone does.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes those fears and those negativities and those feelings of loss and the sadness it's really important to address it.
Exactly.
And I always do, and I work through them. But after that, it's, you know, coming to a place where you can pick a good mindset that's going to carry you past that.
Exactly.
And that's the part that really takes like training. You have to like mindfully practice those skills.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to just like naturally be good at them.
Yeah.
So people always say, oh, you're so positive, like, you know, and you could probably take on anything. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I mean, it took work to become that positive person. And, you know, not that I was ever, I think, an overly negative person. Maybe it's something I was already pretty good at. I don't know. But
there are some people, they are naturally
Definitely.
negative, you know.
Oh, for
and
sure.
what I'm saying is avoid them.
Yes.
You know, saying,
avoid the people that don't fill your bucket, is what we say.
Yeah.
If they fill your bucket, then you want them around. If they take from your bucket, not people we want around.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else that you have in your life that you say, okay, well, these are my goals, really. So I'm going to, you already look at it in that way. What happened. I'm going to make sure that I do everything possible in your way of preventing anything else. You now know that you have to follow a certain routine every 3 months, and then from there in a year, and then from there further. Then, so you're starting to think beyond that again. You then will go back to, as you already start doing, is getting your body back in shape, and then hopefully get back to running.
Getting back to racing, half marathon and the half Ironman. That's the goal. Because the goal still is to make it to the World Championships for the half Ironman.
When is it?
Oh, I mean, it's different times. It happens every year.
But
so it depends the year that you qualify.
Yeah, it's postponed now because of COVID, I
yes,
presume,
and
right?
you have to qualify for the World Championships.
So how would you qualify in smaller runs before that? How do you qualify?
Yeah, so not every single, you know, Ironman, half Ironman event would be a qualifier event, but many of them are.
Right.
And then within each age group, there would be like a percentage of that age group. If you came in a certain top percentage of that age group, you could qualify for the World Championships.
Right.
So I guess when I was in the 18 to 24-year-old age category was the last time that I came very close to almost making it to the World Championships. That was in 2015. So in that race, that was in Lake Stevens, Washington, and the percentage was out of the 18 to 24-year-old female competitors, the top two people from that race would have made it. Yeah. And I came third by like 3 minutes or something in a 6-hour race.
Whoa.
So,
my goodness.
And I was chasing that girl down hard too. And I just like, oh, if only I had a little bit longer, I could have caught her because I was gaining on her. But no, I didn't make it, but I was, 24 at that point. So I was like, all right, like next year I'm coming back in the 25 to 29-year-old category. Here we go. Yeah. I'm going to get it. And then, in 2016, I competed in the Calgary. Yeah. And I was in a new age category, and the 25 to 29-year-old age category was a larger age category. Yeah. More people competing. Yeah. I did very well in that one, but was not in the top percentage again. And then in 2017, I decided, oh my goodness, I just spent 3 hard years racing. Yeah. I just moved across the country and started my career. Like, I need a year off. Yeah. So in 2017, I took a year off. I bought a house. We got our dog. Yeah. Did a little bit of traveling. Did some life things. Right. And then that's when I was planning on coming back to racing in 2018. Exactly. And then still have not returned because of this medical journey that life took me on. Right. So, So hopefully, 2021 we can get back to some racing and test out the racing legs and see how it is. And
Gillian, thank you for being a guest on The Brink.
You're welcome.
And, we'll be watching you closely as
thank you.
time goes forward. And it is my delight to have you on our show.
Oh, thank you so much. It was lovely to talk.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.